Today's story, a haunted B&B. For the best experience, we recommend dimming your room light.
I will never forget the afternoon in October that I spent in a B&B last year. I was scrolling through the homestay lists on my computer. Came across a Victorian mansion in the middle of nowhere and thought it would be a perfect place to write. It was also ideal for my husband because he likes hiking, and the mansion had forested trails all around it. I had booked it without giving it a second thought. We drove nearly the whole of Saturday morning and reached the place just after midday. Luckily, we had stopped over at a roadside motel to grab some burgers. There was no chance we could have found a restaurant around here. The mansion looked more weathered than it did in the picture on the website. As if it has aged quite rapidly in a matter of days. One look from the cobblestone driveway, and my husband said,
"Really?"
"Well, it has character." In fact, it looked quite cinematic. Towering red stone walls darkened with age, a steep gabled roof with chimneys, tall narrow windows, overgrown ivy crawling up the facade, a grand wooden door with a giant brass knocker. It screamed of neglect, but it could be my ideal writer's retreat. All I have to do is write, and all you have to do is run, so we don't exactly need Ritz.
I wouldn't be surprised if bats hit my face on opening that door.
While something about the place did seem off, I was just happy to step away from the gray glass, drab city landscape. Guess that would count as a new experience. Although the outside looked quite dramatic, inside the house was organized, old, but clean. The caretaker would be here in the evening, in case we need anything. I tried to reassure my husband, who still looked unconvinced. My husband drove to the supermarket downtown to grab some stuff for the stay. I was alone in the house. It felt strange being all by myself in such an enormous house. In fact, I hadn't seen another building for the past 1 or 2 kilometers as we drove up here. The bedroom was on the first floor, and it opened into a spacious sitting room where there was a writer's desk. I walked over to the coffee table at one side and prepared a fresh pot. I walked back to the desk and took out my notebook to write. The wall clock ticked away slowly. There was a strange heaviness inside the house. An unsettling atmosphere and a faint smell of old books, mildew, and candle wax. It was the air, I thought, and got up to open one of the windows. My eyes fell on a marble-lined pool at the side of the house, filled with thick green water and floating dry leaves. I had missed it when we entered. I wanted to see more of the house. I walked around and the wooden floorboard creaked with every step. A huge mirror on the far wall, a grand piano, the heavy drapes, a long oak dining table, a massive crystal chandelier dulled with time and swaying ever so slightly, a velvet armchair, and for a second I thought I could see someone seated there. I gasped. Then walked on. It felt as if time got trapped here. There was a restlessness. Suddenly, I heard a loud splash. I was sure it came from the pool. I rushed to the window. To my surprise, there was complete stillness. Not a leaf had moved, not even a ripple. Moments later, I heard the sound of the brass knocker on the main door. There was someone. Not my husband. I would have heard his car. Someone else. I climbed down the giant staircase that dominated the foyer, my nervous hands tracing the banisters carved with intricate designs. The knock came again, louder and more impatient. From the window next to the entrance, I could see a couple standing outside, facing their back towards me. When I opened the door, they turned towards me in a gentle, deliberate grace. Their somber all-black attire made me wonder if they had walked in from a cult ceremony. But their faces were writ with pain and anxiety. Behind the long black coat of the man was a frame that appeared heavy with grief. In the shadow of the delicate bonnet, the eyes of the lady glimmered. Their spectral presence unnerved me. They stood side by side, yet apart from the modern world. Two solemn figures wrapped in black dignity, as if they were in mourning. Their searching eyes went towards the pool. They were quietly assessing, as though the house was already familiar to them.
Have you seen a little boy? My son. Is he here?
No. My voice dry and palms wet.
He loves to play here.
The lady lifted her delicate hand to point towards the pool. The man gently grasped her hand and turned the lady away from me. He looked back one last time, tipped his hat, and said,
"Thank you."
The sweeping hem of the lady's gown softly scraped the stoned path. I closed the door. My heart beating fast, I looked through the window again, and saw that they had vanished. Within the matter of a few seconds, the man and his wife were gone. No traces. The long path was empty. By the time the caretaker arrived, my husband had returned, and we had put our bags back in the car. I couldn't stay here. It was not difficult to convince my husband. I covered my fear with anger. I threatened to give poor ratings. I wanted a refund. The caretaker calmly asked me what had happened. "This property is absolutely uninhabitable. Look at the condition of that pool." My husband and the caretaker both looked at me in surprise.
What pool? There is no pool here. This mansion was owned by a couple. Their son drowned in a pool that used to be there. They had covered the pool with stones long before they sold off this mansion.
Looking at my face, my husband took charge of the situation.
We are leaving now and will deal with this through the booking site.
As I went back inside to pick up my backpack, my eyes fell on two portraits on one of the side walls with peeling damask wallpaper. The faces were looking at me from the frames. The man and his wife. They were silently asking me to leave their house. A shiver ran down my spine, and I rushed out. I took a last look at the property before we drove out. The moon was already up in the night sky. I saw a figure standing at the window of the sitting room. It was the caretaker. I guess he was always part of this uncanny landscape. I never felt more relaxed being back at my apartment. I didn't narrate the whole story to my husband, just that I had felt unsettled in the mansion. When I went back to the booking page, the property was no longer listed. It disappeared in the decay of history, just to live on in my memory forever.
Please do not forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more.